Hello and thank you for joining me. My name is Alan and today's video is about water. Store it and treat it. Simples. Pretty much one of the most important things that a prepper needs to think about. Especially if you're new to prepping. There's been a lot of interest in prepping due to various news articles and things that are going on in the world. And water, whilst it's quite boring and not very sexy, needs to be discussed and understood. Ideally, you want to be able to store a quantity of water at your home. And I know that can be an issue because the amount that we actually require is heavy and takes up space. And not everybody has surplus space. I would strongly recommend that you do keep some bottled water. You can buy the 5 litre containers of natural spring water. It can be supermarket brand and they are relatively cheap. And it would be ideal if you could get 3 or 4 of those and store them in your property. So if there is a problems with the mains, as in mains water, and it has been happening relatively recently with, boil alerts in different areas and people being sick, whilst water boards and local authorities will step in and either bring a bowser in to supply water or supply bottled water, if you've got some stored, then you're sorted from day one. Also means that you haven't necessarily got to go and queue up to get it, because you know what people are like, they're headless chickens and they're in there and they're going to strip the shelves bare. So by having some stored at home, you're going to be in front of the herds of zombies. Two litres, no brand as such. I've had this a while, it's part of our stores, and it has got a best before, not a use by date, of June 2025. I've had this a year. Smart water, and that's a bit trendy, and to be fair, I bought a crate of this primarily because once the water's gone, I'm keeping the bottles because they're pretty good. This one, this smart water again, I've probably had it, I don't know, a couple of months. February 2026, best before. So there really is no reason that you have to keep chucking it away every month or every 3 weeks or whatever you've read on the internet. Water is water. There is no factory on planet Earth making water as such. Chances are you've been drinking recycled dinosaur pee all your life. It's just a cycle. And the water, sun evaporates it, goes up, condenses, rain, just keeps going round. So don't get too sort of tied into this, oh no, it's going to go bad really quickly, because to be fair, it's rubbish. But there are caveats. So, first of all, recap. Store some bottled water, just to get you over the short term. For longer term storage, if you've got a garden or a yard, then water butts. Anything from, 100 litres to probably 300-400 litre capacity. So get what you can fit. They're not particularly expensive. Shop around, come on a little stand, have a tap, have a cover, everything's good in the world. Connect it up to your downpipe, usually comes with a fitting kit, or run a downpipe into it. And that's going to give you a supply of emergency water. Internet, which is a fantastic thing because everyone thinks they're an expert, and I'm not saying I'm an expert, and Fred repeats what Harry said that he heard Sharon say, and it just goes on and on and on, like Chinese whispers. The water that's stored in a water butt, I wouldn't recommend that you just stick your cake hole under the tap and start drinking from it. Because whilst the rainwater to start with is pretty much drinkable, unless there's loads of nuclear fallout or something like that. But no, generally speaking, rainwater as it's coming down and you catch it is pretty much drinkable straight off. If it's landing on the roof of your property and then running down into the gutter and then into your water butt, it isn't. Because the pigeons and the seagulls and everything else have dumped all over your roof, and there will be moss and just rubbish, etc, etc, and that will get washed down through your guttering and into your water butt. So if you used to drink it, chances are you're going to get poorly. Yeah, you'll end up being Tom Dick. The other thing that I've heard people worry about, and I've got to admit I did worry about this for some period of time, is that because the water butts are not food grade containers, they're usually made from recycled plastics, that there is a possibility of chemicals and microplastics leaching into the water that are going to harm you. As somebody pointed out to me, microplastics apparently are already in everything. So you've already been subjected to microplastics and everything else if you eat processed food and blah 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 blah. But we're talking about water and water butts. Soya water filters, and I'm only putting their name out there because that's primarily what I use, filter out microplastics. So on that basis, if you've got your 300, 600, whatever litres of rainwater in your water butts, and there's a problem, you can take the water out of the butt, providing it's got a cover over it, there shouldn't be a lot of sediment in it. Like, yeah, if you've got no cover on it, you're going to have leaves and all sorts of rubbish in it. But if you've got a cover over it, there's going to be pretty much next to no sediment as such in there. And you will see, because as you draw the water out, if it looks relatively clear, then there's not a lot of sediment in it. If it's murky, then it's got sediment in it. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because to prolong the use of your filter, you want to try to remove sediment before it goes through your filter, because it's those big lumps that will clog up your filter and reduce output much more than if it's relatively clean water. And when I'm saying clean, I'm talking about clean by you looking at it. Doesn't necessarily mean you can just drink it. So if you've got sediment in it, you want to filter that out with a coarse filter, even if you just get the old favourite, your schmog, a bandana, a cotton t-shirt, whatever, put it over the top of the container, pour the dirty water into that, the material will trap sediment, or the vast majority of it, and big bits, and the water will come through. If you haven't got a sediment problem, you can go straight to the filtering. So you can attach a soya filter, and that will remove anything that's nasty in there, the bird poo, any germs, any little things that want to bite you when you eat them or drink it, and will remove the microplastics. So you make up your own mind, but as far as I'm concerned, it's as good as it gets. People go to fast moving streams and not so fast, to stagnant water, ponds, lakes and rivers, and will take water from that and stick it through their filter and consume it. There's still things pooping and dying in that water, and microorganisms and potentially microplastics and a few chemicals and everything else that humans generally just chuck about where it gets washed in because we don't really care about what we're doing to our planet. So filter that water out of your water butt and you're good to go. In the UK, we have quite a bit of rain, so unless it's really bad, we don't really have a problem getting water. You could, if you've got a garden or a yard, put tarp up. Even if it's, 2 metres by 2 metres, that's a good area surface area, angle it down in one corner, and then when it rains it will run off that tarp and into a container, so you can harvest water that way. I wouldn't want to be drinking even filtered water if it's come off a shed roof or something that's got an asphalt roof, because of the petrochemicals within that composition on the roof. The normal filter isn't going to get rid of them. You would probably, and I don't know, need to also have something with a carbon element to reduce those chemicals. But to be safe, don't harvest water off of a roof that's got bitumen, you know what I mean, that type of lining on it. If you've got prior notice that there's going to be drama, you could fill up your bath with water. That's going to hold a couple of 100 litres, I'll imagine. Or if you've got a bit of a dicky plug in your bath, so you put the water in and unfortunately it leaks and you lose it, you could buy something like a water bag. These are available on Amazon and they have different capacities, 50 litres, 80 litres, 100 litres, whatever. And the idea originally was that you'd put it in a wheelbarrow, fill it up, and if you're looking after horses or animals or whatever, and then you would use the wheelbarrow to transport it about, tip it up and pour it out so that you could fill up drinks troughs for animals or whatever. But you could put one of those bags in your bath, fill it up, then put the lid on, and you've got a large quantity of water that isn't exposed to the elements because you've got a top on it, so there's, you know, no bits of hair or skin or anything falling in it, or anything else if you're sitting on the throne next to the bath dropping off the kids. So that's another option. So store some water. You do not need to take it out your water butt, filter it, add chemicals as in Puritabs, and then boil it. That is overkill. You really, really do not need to do that. If the filters work on a pond or a river or a stream, then they're going to work on your water butt. Another thing, containers to store your water in. Ideally, you want to use containers that are food grade and that are either brand new, never had anything stored in them, or has had water stored in them. A no-no is your plastic milk cartons. That is a definite no-no. Because as I've said in previous videos, the proteins in the milk get absorbed by the plastic. You can't see them, but they're there. It doesn't matter how many times you wash them out. If you then fill it up with tap water, which don't forget is in most cases already chlorinated, put the lid on and leave it on the side, and after a week or 2 weeks you'll start to see green mould within the water. That's because the proteins in the milk and the enzymes that have been absorbed into the plastic are coming back out. So don't store your water in milk containers. Don't store water in containers that have had something else in it for potentially the same problem. You can buy food grade containers on Amazon and eBay brand new for not a lot of money, especially the sort of 25 litre ones, because they're quite manageable, because we need to remember that water is heavy. You can fill it up with tap water, put the lid on it, put it away somewhere. I've got about 160 litres in our garage. It's been there over a year, and if I think about it, I'll swap it out. Otherwise I won't swap it out, it will sit there. It's in the dark. It went into brand new food grade containers, and if we have to use it, it will be filtered before consumption. So you don't need to sterilise your water before you put it in the container, because if you use chlorine based, purification tablets, it degrades. So once it's in the water, it's going to work, but then over time it degrades. So really it's a bit of a pointless exercise because you're going to get to treat the water when you take it out. Go back to the, you know, the lake, the pond, the stream. You're not doing anything to the water, are you? Because it's already there. You're going to filter it and then consume it. So do your treatment when you're going to use it. There is no need to do lots of treatment to the water, to put it in a container and to put it away for a while or a long time. You do not have to change it out every month, every 6 months or whatever. It is not going, or I should say it's very unlikely to go bad, providing the container you put it in hasn't had anything else stored in it and it is clean. It's kept out of direct sunlight, it's kept at a relatively stable temperature. It will be fine. It can, water does, when it's been stored for a long while, go flat. And when I say by that, it will taste flat, it will taste a bit, nothing wrong with it. It's just that taste, and the way to get round that is when you start to use it, is to pour it from one container to another, yeah? Do that a few times, and what you're doing is you're aerating the water, you're putting some air, some oxygen back into that water, and you will find that the taste is improved. If you're that fussed about the taste of the water, then watch my last week's video, which was modifications for the soy squeeze, and I showed you a carbon element that you can purchase that fits them. So if you're worried that the water tastes a bit flat, run it through a carbon element and it will make it taste better. But to be fair, it's pretty much not needed. Water does not. You haven't got to keep changing it every 3 weeks or every month. You will read loads of things on the internet, people telling you have. Ask them why. And then ask them where the water comes from that they've been drinking anyway. Because as I said, it's just a, you know, it's that cycle. And you are drinking dinosaurs' pee. Right, moving on slightly. The Soya filters are perfectly adequate if you just want something or an emergency kit that's going to get you over a relatively short period of time, be it your 72 hours or 168 hours a week. Yes, it's going to be tedious filtering the water through a filter because they're not designed really to provide drinking water for a whole family, especially when it's on tap, if that makes sense. The Soya Mini, the flow rate of that is half of the Soya Squeeze, approximately. And you can rig these up as gravity filters. So you would have again, look at last week's video, you would have a bag or a container on the top, you'll fill that up with your untreated water and it will come out the bottom to be consumed. So you can do that, you can filter it overnight, so you can, but it would be tedious. So yes, 3-day kit, or either, you know, as I said before, you can build a 3-day emergency kit but stick it in a rucksack. That way if you've got to evacuate, you've got it all with you. Or if you haven't got to evacuate, you can take the stuff out of the rucksack and use it as your emergency kit. If you've got the money and you anticipate that there could be problems that would go on for a longer period of time, or just to give you some resilience, then really the best, in my humble opinion, is the British Birkfeld. And there is a difference, it's not Berkey, it's a British Birkfeld, made by Dalton. This is the 6 litre model, which I think is on Amazon at the moment for about 130 quid. So yes, you can go, oh, 130 quid, can't afford that. Well, that's the same as these really, these are cheaper, but people moan about this. It's like, well, why do I want to spend 40 quid or whatever a Soya Mini is? There's some lookalikes on eBay for £23. I'll buy one of them. Okay. Look where it's coming from. It will say London or Manchester. Actually means it's coming straight from China. Yes, there are filters that look like these, and there are a hell of a lot of them. would you buy knockoff or counterfeit medicine off of eBay? You'd be a muppet if you did, wouldn't you? And I would suggest that you're probably a bit of a nana if you used to buy a knockoff filter on eBay or Amazon or wherever the outlets are, because it's untested. You want something that is reliable and from a reputable company. It hasn't got to be Sawyer, Catadone. There are a number of companies that produce filters that have been going for quite a long period of time, and that's where I would suggest you spend your money. Not buying an unbranded or a knockoff on eBay or any of the other sites, because you can't see inside it, you don't know how well it's made, you don't know what the quality control's like of their product. And if you go to use it and it makes you Tom Dick, what are you going to do? Potentially die, depending if it's, if it's a crap it's the fan situation. But what are you going to do? Send them a nasty email. And if they bother to reply until you send it back to China, because that's where it came from, it didn't really come from London or Manchester. So don't be a wally, spend the money and buy a branded filter from a reputable company that has been going for a period of time, because they have reputation to maintain. Anyway, getting back to this. This is a 6 litre model, about 130 quid on Amazon at the moment. It comes with 2 ceramic elements. It's a gravity filter. The good thing about it is you can keep it as I do, boxed up, not in use, for a problematic day, so to speak. Once you start using it, as it says on there, the elements last for 6 months. So it doesn't really matter how much water's going through it, 6 months. So when I bought this, I bought another spare pair of elements that, again, not used, sealed. So it would give me 12 months use. If the crap hits fan, if I'm still alive at the end of that 12 months of it going completely wrong, then I'll have to improvise. But basically, as I said, this is a 6 litre model. I got it because it's just a Turvis, and basically, oh, crash bang wallop, sorry about that. You put 6 litres of your untreated water in there, and then you leave it to do its thing, and it's gravity fed, so it goes down there, filters through the ceramic filters that will reduce chemicals, heavy metals, microplastic, and all the nasty bugs, etc. that are in your drinking water. And it goes through there, and then it comes into this section. And this section has a little tap on the bottom, so you put your cup or your bowl or whatever it is you need, turn the tap on, water comes out the bottom, it's good to go. You can drink it, cook with it, do what you need to do with it. So, yeah, 130 quid, it's worth thinking about. I would rather save up and buy one of these than get a crappy knockoff of one of these and think I'm going to be sorted, because as far as I'm concerned it's false economy and you're potentially putting your life on the line. I know there are going to be people that said, oh, I bought one, a copy, I've used it and it was fine. Good for you. What if it wasn't fine? Yeah, it's a bit like playing Russian roulette, isn't it? Click, everything's good, click, everything's good. And then it isn't. So that's it really. I hope it's short and sweet and not bored you to tears. But water, do some research, but it really isn't as difficult as some people will tell you it is. And you really haven't got to necessarily jump through 20,000 loops, do this, throw it away. Yeah, a lot of it's old wives' tales. Someone heard something, Chinese whispers. Do some research. A lot of what you hear on the internet is the same as anything else. Not particularly true. Enjoy your day, stay safe. If you like the content, consider subscribing. Give us one of them. Love to read your comments. Bonjour.